I have to thank you because I think that really seeing Timothee's performance on the Call Me By Your Name is one of the main driving force to think about Paul Atreides.
We don't know each other, but I hope we will become friends in time.
You're sweet. I would love to.
But I feel there is a sort of, there is something parallel between the two of us. We both are filmmakers who are working in the English language, but we are not coming from the English language. We are foreign in the language. You are French and I'm Italian, French Canadian and I'm Italian. We both nurtured projects in our minds since we were kids. I think you notoriously read Dune at the age of 13 and you said, I'm gonna make it. And I read Queer at the age of 17 and I said, I'm gonna make it. So for me, it's not like casual, because I really think about your work a lot and I really admire you very deeply. So when I heard that we were working with the same stars in the leading roles of our movies, I felt like, yeah, because there is a companionship there. And I love the idea that these extraordinary people, Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, and all the other ones that you work with that are amazing, they can be played together and with them in so many different colors and in different canvases, you know. So I think I'm very fond of that. And I was telling you before a story that I came to show Challengers to See in Budapest. And while they were looking at the movie, I was walking in your sets. It was a Sunday, it was empty. It was a great moment.
Yeah, I wish I had been there. Frankly, I would have loved to show you the sets myself, to walk with you. It would have been an honor for me. But the thing is that I have to thank you because I think that really seeing Timothee's performance on the Call Me By Your Name is one of the main driving force to think about Paul Atreides. There was something about that intelligence that I saw in his eyes and the high maturity in that youth that you capture that I said, oh my God, maybe it could be him. And that is it's definitely, it was like, I remember it was definitely a strong moment when I saw the movie and I saw Timothee's performance. And when I started to think about casting, I thought a lot about Call Me By Your Name.
I remember I was in Venice and there was Incendie.
Oh boy, okay, you saw Incendie.
And I went to see Incendie because I was with a friend of mine. She was in the jury for first time directors. And the words spread on the Lido in 3 seconds that the movie was a masterpiece. Oh, yeah. So I went to see it. It was a masterpiece. It was very surprising to me, the subject matter of the movie and the way you did it.
It's based on a play written by Wajdi Mouawad, and it's like, it was at first strange for me to approach this subject matter that was so far away from me, but there was something in the tissue of the story that deeply talked to me. Yeah. And I knew how to direct it, and I knew how to bring it to the screen, and I was able to get the rights. And with this, it's a fantastic playwright who works in Paris now.
Yeah, it's a movie that has been staying throughout the decades as a movie that is very telling. Every time you watch it, it's about something that is really happening.
Yeah,
both in terms of like the mythological and the urgent.
Yeah, it's sadly about cycles of violence. Yeah, and never-ending cycles of violence, and unfortunately, reality keeps repeating itself. Yeah. Me, I discovered your work through Call Me By Your Name. Uh-huh. It's still a movie that I'm thinking of very often today. Of course, from the fantastic performances from the actor, but also how daring the movie was about the way you use the camera work and the mise en scène. I was really impressed by that film. And from then on, I followed your work. Yeah.
Thank you. It's a movie where I said to myself when I did it that I wanted to free myself from the obligations of the camera and the technique of the camera. So I decided to shoot it with only one lens.
Yeah, I see.
I picked 35. which suddenly was a limitation that freed us completely. And then I got back to the way in which I wanted to use the camera.
And when you did that, did you, when you were in the editing room, it's a question I always wanted to, because I felt that freedom in the edit was also where you were going, you were cutting the axes, or you didn't, like, I felt like a total new way to use the language of cut, in the way you cut between the, so that's why, because you use only 35.
Only 35. So the ratio and the distance is never kind of changing. And because it's a movie about people in a house, it was going to be consistent, that thing.
Yeah, and it's like tableau. Each shot is like a tableau, and each shot, but there was like, sometimes there's like a shock between the tableau that I thought was very propulsive and daring. You understand what I mean?
I totally understand, but honestly, I have the same exact feeling watching your movies, because I feel that what you build is an image that is juxtaposed another image. And it's the shock of the two images together that what makes your movie arresting and unique.
But, thanks for saying. I think that if I wasn't a director, I'll be an editor. I love editing. Editing is one of my favorite parts. I came from the documentary, and when I was doing documentaries, where I took the most pleasure by making those were really in the editing room, where you are limited to what you capture, and then to create association of images to create something new. And even today, in a movie like the movies I'm making right now, I'm trying to find back in the editing room that pleasure of something, shocking myself with that just a position of shots that were not meant to be, or things that,
but in Dune
create something new.
In Dune Part 2, you do that beautifully and in a very like experimental way. I think the third act is editorially very like
choppy,
in a way that moves through places and times, and almost give the feeling of the Arrakis spice in watching it. For me.
I understand.
It was very like wow.
Happy you're saying so. It's true that at the end, the tableau become, in French we said entrechoqué. It means that there's a collisions between the shots to provoke a momentum.
But that's pure experimentation.
Yeah, there's
you did it entering into the experimentation.
It's something that I'm blessed. I'm grateful that the studio allowed me to go in that zone, to not stay in a let's say more conventional zone of editing, because when I was doing movies with more in the indie world, it's something that but when to be able to do that that's where I'm having the most fun, the more fun. Yeah.
But I think the beauty of it is that you continue carrying your perspective on things, no matter what the size of the movie is. Which makes you a creator of prototypes.
Yeah, but don't you have you do the same technically?
I try to, yes.
Because me, what I'm amazed is that when I watch your movies, it's always the movies I feel are always like you try to break the form, or you try to push forward the language, but always in a different way. It's always your movie. I always recognize you from the sensibility, the subject matter, and more specifically, the way you can incredibly approach intimacy in the most. I don't know how you do that, honestly. I don't know. It's masterful the way you are able to get closer to human behaviors, to sensuality, to sexuality. I think it's very powerful. And being a director, I know how difficult this is to do. And I'm. But so through your movies, I always feel that. But in the same time, like a movie like Challengers and Queer are so different in some ways from the shot list approach or camera movement. It's always, in your case, absolutely mastered. The rhythm, the inner rhythm of the shot is perfect.
That's what you guys will have done together. But imagine if you could turn Patrick Zweig into a guy who wins a slam.
Are you trying to make a different movie every time? Or?
I do. I think I do. I think I try to find a way to speak the different possibilities of the language of cinema. that I learned watching great movies in general. I like to think that I think of cinema through the lens of cinema. And I do love filmmakers who are thinking of cinema through the lens of reality, of course. But for what fascinates me, what makes me jump, is the way in which we can build an imagery that it's somehow related to our job, our métier, you know, which is the idea of space and movement inside and outside the camera and the frame.
But if you think, I see that if you take a movie like Challenger, which is like it, I was like floored by the way it was shot, by the directing, the way it's the mise en scène. It's like, first of all, I absolutely believe that the three of them were half pros or pro tennis players. I don't know how you achieved that. The amount of training that they went through.
Well, I don't know how you achieve.
What
you do when they fight. And
but it's just the amount of preparation, and also the level of the precision of camera work, about the way. How do you work like a movie like Challenger? Do you storyboard a lot? Is it something that you go and you sit and you watch Zendaya and the opponent play with the cinematographer, and you do you have like, is it things that those shots are like, of course, if there's an actor throwing a tennis ball toward the camera, there's a floor of glass. This has been to be planned, of course, but how do you approach
Usually I never do storyboard.
Okay.
Usually I like the idea that having been prepared more or less well, knowing the sets, I go there, I don't do even shoot list. I just go there with the actors and we block. Once we have an idea of what the blocking is, I then understand how to shoot it.
Got it.
So I tell everybody where we have to put the camera. But in Challengers, because I basically didn't know anything about tennis, I was completely dry, ignorant.
I love that.
I didn't know anything. And now I know less because I forgot. I had to go through a lot of planning. So I wanted to have tennis doubles for like a couple of months with me and doing the points that were described in the script. Repeating and repeating until I could understand what that meant first. And then I started to draw all the shots. So eventually, like 2-3 weeks before shooting, we had already storyboarded all the tennis, just the tennis.
Understand.
Which was interesting because I thought storyboarding meant a little bit of airless kind of filmmaking, in my prejudice.
A little bit less what?
Airless, as if it was a bit too controlled.
Okay.
In fact, it was actually a good tool to lose control. But if I hadn't storyboarded, I would have died because the geometry of the court was too important not to achieve.
Yeah, but also the nature of the camera movement you were coming with, you cannot improvise that on the day. You cannot say to your cinematographer.
He has to know what cranes bring and all of that.
Yeah.
Because I love camera movements.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
You do love camera movements. I mean, if you zero on the grammar, what is the rhetorical figure of our work that you prefer? The camera movement, the editing?
Me, editing and the lenses.
Do you own lenses yourself?
No.
Have you ever thought about the fetishism of buying them?
I remember the first time when I was a film student, the first time I had a camera in my hands. I brought back the camera home. I think it was a Bolex. And I remember, I think I slept with the camera. I was like, I was in love with cameras. I love it. And I through the learning how the reality is transformed by the millimeters is something that still fascinates me today.
Me too.
And how I will say that's the thing. It took me a while before finding my voice as a filmmaker. It took me a couple of movies. Some filmmakers, probably most of them, find their voice with their first feature. So there's a lot of people who are born and with a very strong voice. Not me. I was like...
Me neither.
I was too... there were too many voices in my head too many. I was too many influence, too many directors.
Did you wanted to try too many things? Maybe.
Yes, but also I was like I was a film student. I was like I had watched too many movies. I was like, and it's so I had never. It's really doing my fourth feature that I finally felt strongly that I was it was silence. I was like able to make shots that belonged to me, and as I was doing so, it was very tableau. It was very still. There was not a lot of camera movements, to my great surprise, but to my great comfort. So it
was
became
it Prisoners?
No, it was a movie called Incendie. It's Incendie.
Incendie, your fourth movie?
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Why?
I thought it was your second movie.
No, it's a good news because it's you should not see the. It's no, but it's some.
So you were like surprised to find out that the camera was still.
Yeah. But that it was the way it needed to be shot, and that I was going away from preconception or how it should have been done. I remember again when I did Blade Runner 2049, Ridley Scott saying, "Your camera is really still. Should you do more movement?" Maybe he was right, but I felt home in that static and that kind of contemplative and being like still. There's something about stillness that really appeals to me deeply, and that is not very far away from what is in fashion. But it doesn't mean that I don't admire people that work like you with incredible camera movements, like in Challenger.
How are you going to look at me if I still can't beat Patrick Zweig?
Just like this.
The point of movement and stillness is what it means if you move the camera, and honestly, I agree with you. The idea of movement for the sake of it is really insufferable in cinema. Also, the idea that the movement can be defying the physics, for me, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning of Dune Part 2, you have those people climbing, like flying over this mountain in this beautifully composed shot. And we bring them up with us in a way that I have not seen in a science fiction movie where you have someone flying. Because it's about the space and the time they take to get there that I feel you are giving me, and of course the arresting position where we are, which is an impossible position, which is amazing. Because if everything can be done, and you can flip the camera like this in every way, then nothing is real.
Do you think that's a thing that I'm wondering? We are both from the same generation. We were being raised with cinema before computers.
Definitely.
Meaning that there's something about the depth of field, the possibility of the camera movements, the limitations that define the way we perceive movies. And when I do visual effects, I use those limitations. I will not put a camera between the flying objects, even if it's a CGI flying objects. I will keep a distance, like if it was a real. I will put lenses to shoot the worms that are long lenses, because it would be impossible for a film crew to be close to a cinema. I'm trying to use the limitations of what it will be if it had been real, and using those limitations that I knew from the cinema from before computers. But the young generation who are used to see those crazy movements, those absolutely free camera movement that are doing the impossible things that you're talking about that you don't like me. I wonder if they will have the same references in their mind. You understand what I mean?
I do understand. I'm a little
wondering
bit
if I'm a dinosaur.
No, you know what? No, we are not. I am a bit grumpy, but I think they should go back to the great movies and learn. Today I had the privilege of watching an amazing print of La Grande Illusion, Jean Renoir.
Wow. Where did you see that?
At the Mill Theater at Amazon.
Wow.
They were gracious enough to give me a screening of it. The way in which Renoir moves the camera, it's dazzling, but always with a very specific purpose that is never about the kind of anxiety of boredom. It's more about letting you understand. So,
meaning.
Yeah.
I understand.
Do you remember your first encounter with a coup de corps of cinema? Like the first time you saw a movie that you felt like, oh my God, that's what I want to be.
Honestly, I remember one of the first aesthetic shock was on I think it was on television. And I think it was the beginning of 2001, A Space Odyssey. The movie was shown, you know, at the time on TV, the movie were shown once a year on a Thursday night at 8 o'clock. I had to go to bed at 8:30 or something, and I was in the stairs cheating, and parents were thinking I was in my bed, but I was still looking at the TV. It's just the opening of this movie really created a feeling of vertigo, that to be in front of something that I was not understanding, something that felt totally real, but something that the dawn of humanity, where you have like and that feeling of someone that went there with a camera showing me something that was intellectually challenging, and to this day still one of my favorite movies because of that.
It is beautiful what you say, because I honestly feel the complete connection with Arrival and Dune and Dune Part 2 with 2001, and the sheer towering ambition of encompassing the universe into the screen that he was trying to go for. It was an impression that it's a primal scene, basically.
Yeah. And it's something that I feel, you know, you're talking about Renoir, but this idea that the power of the language of the images, and not to go away from dialogues. I'm not saying dialogues are bad, but for me it's something that should not be the driving force of a film.
And dialogue can be interesting if it's one of the elements.
Exactly.
But if it becomes the driving force because you have to get the information through dialogue, we basically are bankrupt.
And honestly, I will say this: I feel that that's where both Dune movies are not. There's where I feel that I was never able. My dream would have been to do those movies with as less dialogue as possible, and I failed because I feel that there's too much elements that needs to be understood between the dynamics of everybody, and there's too much dialogues to personally.
Do you think you can decidedly work on a movie of that scale and basically dismissing dialogue completely?
Not completely. I would not like it to be like
a gimmick.
A gimmick, exactly.
No.
But as less as that, the dialogue, as you said, is just something that is there as an element. Yeah, an element. But
maybe it's an element of behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
More than an element of information.
Exactly. But that the core of the language is a bit like in Queer, where it's like I felt that you could, I think, you could watch Queer without dialogues, and you will absolutely understand what's happening in the movie. Absolutely, you will absolutely understand the dilemma, the fear, the vulnerability, the anxiety, the loneliness, the quest of the main character, the main protagonist of Queer, and you will absolutely understand the film, I think, without a sound. Don't you think?
That's an amazing compliment. I hope so, because
it is the best compliment for me.
Yes, it's the best compliment.
Yeah. I was floored by how you created, I will say, a mental Mexico, like a kind of a Mexico that looks so real, but at the same time looks like coming from the mind on someone. Because we are following a writer, we are following someone that is giving us like account of his days in his.
It was a very important decision to be taken. That the movie wasn't about someone living in that place in that period of time, but actually that the place was in a way the projection of the mind and the emotional state of this person.
I'm not queer.
I know.
I'm disembodied.
both Burroughs and the character of William Lee. So the decision was taken immediately to go, let's say, artificial, to recreate the world. I'm happy you say that it's completely real and yet completely invented, because that was the strange line that we were trying to cross.
And there's something about, please tell me if I'm wrong, but there's also something in the way you design the landscape, and you designed about the way, the precision, in the composition of those landscapes, that reminds me of the very old postcard of another time, or something that it feels like when you were like, about the elements, the depth, there was something there that felt like coming from another time, from that time exactly.
We definitely reviewed a lot of, with my production designer, Stefano Baisi, we reviewed a lot of pictures of the times and postcards of the times, remember?
Okay, so I'm not wrong.
Yeah, no, not at all, not at all. We even use, in a moment, he's looking a sort of cursor where you see the corrida. That is another piece that comes from the time. And there is a sense of nostalgia in that imagery, but at the same time, and longing, at the same time is an efficient signal of the reality of these people at the times.
What I love is that you found like a kind of balance between a representation of that period of time without being too fetishist about it.
Thank you.
Understand?
Thank you, I
what I
like
mean?
that.
See, apart from the opening sequence where you do all those stills, that was very fetish. But apart from that, but there's something about the way you use production design. That's why I feel it feels real. It feels like I'm not distracted by the elements. I'm immersed in a new time, in the past. You understand what I mean?
Yes, I do, and that's also, I guess, probably thanks to the wonderful performances. Because, you know, like you have these people like Lee and Allerton and everybody else. You have Daniel Craig and Drew Starkey, Jason Schwartzman, and they inhabit the place with a boldness that makes us believe.
Yeah, they are magnetic. Yeah. You were way too. I love the way you approach the vulnerability of humans, and I love how
which is exactly what you do, because if you think of the arc of Paul Atreides and Chani and the way that they are doomed, they meet like Lee and Allerton, and they're never going to be able to be apart from one another, but they are both doomed by their position in their world.
By the context.
Yeah, which eventually, like, I think both movies are phantasmagorical, but both movies are very intimate.
Yeah, at the core of Dune Part 2, I kept saying to my crew, if we don't believe in their love story, there's no movie. The whole structure of the screenplay was based on that relationship.
Well, I'd very much like to be equal to you.
Maybe I'll show you the way.
I will hit myself. We were not talking about the way you are, because I think it's very difficult to represent sexuality on screen. I think it's so you feel the realism of it, you feel the tension of it, the vulnerability, and I wonder how you do that. I wonder how you were able to go so to approach it in such a cinematic and such a pure and human and with so much empathy and feeling the beauty of it and the same time, how do you approach it with your actors? How do you do it, Luca? How can you go in that where the actor will be absolutely vulnerable like that? And
to be candid, I feel that that to me, making movies is to be alive and to live. So I live through my movies. Probably I'm able to bring into the movies a lot of what I feel in a very relentless way. So when you approach that with your actors and they feel that you are sharing a sort of fragility, emotional fragility, and that we are concurring together to bring to life something that is so intimate, that starts from a very honest relationship with myself in the first place, the material, the novel. Then they feel free. Because I think the important thing is to let them feel completely free, non-self-conscious, that they shouldn't think about their public image or any of that. So that becomes, everything collapses in that moment of intimacy in a way that once it's done, we also pinch ourselves and say, oh, we did it. How did you do that? But in order to get that intimacy, you have to make sure that they know that you are investing yourself into it completely, I would say.
Yeah, I understand, because they have to trust you absolutely.
I think so, right?
Yeah. And it's like when you do the choreographs, is it something that how do you approach it? I mean, you sat and you start to discuss about, say, we're gonna make love like that.
Usually I use my wonderful friend Fernanda Perez, who is the makeup artist of all my movies. I say, Fernanda, come here, I can show them what we should do.
Okay.
Sometimes keep it light as well, like make it fun.
Yeah.
And ridiculous. But then when you start rolling, when we were doing Call Me By Your Name, and Elio has masturbated on the pitch, then he has fallen asleep, and then Oliver shows up, and they have this moment of conversation. It's a bit salacious. Oliver eats the pitch with the cum. So it seems to be another heightened moment of sex, and then eventually the both of them confesses each other that they are really desperate at the perspective that the summer is ending. And so Elio started to cry. We were shooting in an actual attic in the villa where we were shooting, which was filled of mice everywhere. It was that we didn't almost do anything there. We just stepped in. And there was Sayumbu Muktipram, the wonderful director of photography of the movie, and the script supervisor, Rachel. That's it, 3 people. I was nearby because I'd never been in the room when they shoot particularly intimate scenes, because I don't want to intrude. I describe everything, but then I go.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You described, and then I
go.
Okay, and you leave it with the camera?
They have to make love with the camera.
Okay. Interesting.
So when we arrived with a cut, and we were all like shocked by the intensity of the performance of Armie Hammer and Timmy, I moved into the room to say, thank you, that's done, fun. I look into the corner where the camera was, and there was this wonderful, wonderful gentleman, Sayumbu Muktipram, who was sobbing behind the camera and crying, and he was really desperate because the summer of Elio and Oliver was coming to an end. That is the miracle of cinema, I would say, and the generosity of everyone involved. Do you agree with me that we do somehow, sometimes, with the story we tell through the movies we make, not only the movies and the stories and the characters, but we also tell, it's also a documentary on the actors.
Both of us, we did a little bit of a Timothée Chalamet
documentary. Yes.
Yeah, it's true. How he slowly aged and grew up, and from movie to movie.
The first day of shooting Call Me By Your Name, I was like, wow. I was so happy because he's so intelligent, so articulate as an actor, and also so candid as an actor. So my passion for capturing, stealing from actors their inside, their soul, and at the same time having great performances, was so satisfied. And I told him, I said, you are fantastic. I mean, this was literally first time shooting with him, first day, and I was already like, wow. This guy.
Yeah, I understand, and he was like perfect, and he was like such confidence, assurance, doing that movie, and I think that he has an incredible trajectory. When I started to work with him on Dune Part 1, I felt like a responsibility, because I did feel very quickly that he was not used to a movie of that size. He was, I think, impressed by the amount of the pressure of other actors, and more specifically, how could he protect his own focus and find, in fact, just to define himself. He was a young adult. Trying still his identity was not solidified. I felt as an actor, when the camera rolled, absolutely. But outside the camera, I felt it needed to be protected and taken care of. The pressure. I felt, and I realized, and we became close friends because of that. I think that And it was Me Too, a movie of the first time I was making a movie of that scale. But when he came back on part 2, he had worked with you again, and on other movies, and I felt the amount of how he did grow up between both. And when he came on part 2, he was really like a leading man. He was more assured. He knew where to put his limits, how to
and
focus.
again, it was a documentary because Paul Atreides' arc was also Timothy arc.
Yeah. Interesting. Yes, interestingly, yes. Yeah, it was very moving for me to have that privilege to see him growing in front of the camera. Now, about Zendaya, I will say that it's always fascinating. I feel when I don't know if you have the same feeling when working with Timothée. You feel that you, in some ways, own Timothée. I mean, there's something. It's an actor that is you know his sensibility, you know his work, you know, and then when you see him on another project, sometimes it's beautiful to be surprised. But
True.
And when I saw Challenger, I had that with Zendaya. How I was like, in a great way, destabilized and surprised how she revealed another side of herself that I thought was absolutely incredible.
For about 15 seconds there, we were actually playing tennis. And we understood each other completely. So did everyone watching. It was like we were in love.
Kind of wit, and there's something there that you were able to...
Yeah, she pulled a wonderful, like almost like Preston Sturges kind of sense of humor.
Yeah, exactly.
Like an old Hollywood classic cinema, kind of like a leading lady and fierceness.
Yeah. That kind of...
Also, Zendaya is not scared at all to play with the unlikability of the character in Challengers. You know, like she's kind of a tough character who does things that can be considered unlikable, but then she conquers you completely.
Yeah, she's very playful in that regard.
Yeah.
But I was really happily and excited to watch her in Challengers, revealing a side that I haven't not seen really, and that is always a pure pleasure. I don't know if it does that to you when you look at your actors in other movies. But
yeah, and I'm proud.
Yeah, that feeling of
and I'm very proud.
Yeah.
Like a dad, you know, like
exactly.
I feel like wow, when you see that they command our gaze as audience, not anymore as directors, and they do so in these movies that are so entertaining. They lead them. I'm so happy. It's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting when if I mention a title of a movie in your mind, say if I say M from Fritz Lang, or there's an image that comes in your mind spontaneously, because there's always a shock that imprints somewhere in the back of your brain. When I think of queer, the first image that comes in my mind is Daniel Craig blowing that blood balloon. Like
yes.
That kind of, it's an image that I was like,
that's an image that I pursued doing for like 40 years.
It's so powerful.
Comes from my life because I almost never said the story. I was 10 years old. My family in Sicily, my father's aunt was in another village far from Palermo. She was old. So we went to pick her, to bring her with us at home. Everybody was preparing, and then the car was in front of the building, and I was coming down the stairwell, and I opened the door to the outside, and I see this old lady blowing a big balloon, a red balloon, and I thought like, wow, auntie is blowing a balloon. She was like 90. And then I'm transfixed by this image, and the balloon becomes bigger and bigger and redder and redder and redder until it pops and collapses. She had a hemorrhage in front of me. So that image has been haunting me forever. And because Lee loves Allerton with all his being, and I would say also Allerton does love Lee with all his being.
Yeah, of course.
But they are like caged in their own bodies. What ayahuasca would do immediately to them, liberate completely the hearts in a literal way. And then I came back to my experience with my aunt. So when we had to do it, it was interesting because I could not forget that moment. So when we were doing it, in the first place with special effect and makeup, and then enhancing in visual effect, I knew what was not working because I remembered the writing in reality.
It is a very powerful image. For me, it was kind of linked with the soul, or like something that is coming out of the body that was hidden, that needed to exist.
Exactly.
And it's like connected with the depth of the soul, and I was floored by that image, and then by those when both men were making love after, and their hands were going under their skin, and I thought it was so sensual and beautiful and nightmarish at the same time. There was about like being one, and the
which is of course the idea of fusing yourself with one.
Yeah.
It's scary to people because you feel the idea that self-annihilation in the other, but in this case was a portal open for the two of them to finally accept their mutual love.
Yeah.
And then they cannot continue because they're too scared of that. Yeah. I thought on that we thought a lot of the work of Francis Bacon.
Yeah.
There was a beautiful exhibition recently, 3 years ago, about sexuality in Francis Bacon. There were a lot of paintings of couples fusing into one another. So that was like a very long process, which I'm sure that the same can be said of the incredible sequence of the arena of the Harkonnen, where in order to create that quality of image, you had to go through special makeup and then special post-production, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And of course, you use a special film, I know.
Yeah, I will go back to that, but I don't want to. You're going too fast. When you did that sequence where both men were making love and going, is it like you shot them caressing themselves, and then you did the visual effects on top of it?
The first thing was to invite these two incredible choreographers, Sol Leon and Paul Lightfoot, who are like some of the greatest choreographers in the world of theater and dance. And I invited them to choreograph that. And they worked with Daniel and Drew for like a couple of months before.
Couple of months?
Yes.
Okay.
That's some lead time to rehearse.
Okay.
Which was a great way of breaking the ice of the proximity of the bodies.
Yeah.
Because they were like in underwear rehearsing this thing forever.
That's brilliant. So they become used.
They become friends. They become used to their own smells and proximity.
So when you direct them,
when we shot the scenes of
sex, after that they were used to the smell of the other. They were used to the proximity of the skin. They were like, I see.
So that's what the first thing we did. Then we had to prepare a special flooring on the jungle scene that was created in Cinecittà. We had to put mattresses, and then on top of mattresses, we have to put something that could be a placeholder for the earth. So we put coffee, tons of coffee, grinded coffee, and basically we shot it as simple as possible. Like, no, you remember it was like almost looking at them, nothing special, but the choreography was incredible. And so every time they were touching, eventually in post-production, that was almost a year of work. We had to create the illusion that the hands were going inside.
Because it was perfect. It was like
from you, this is like wow.
No, Luca. Seriously, don't. I'm not. It's just it was like all that sequence from what it evoke. It's images that are coming from deep in the subconscious, that are like coming and are fresh. I have not seen before. But technically they are perfect too. I mean, it's like, so I was really impressed.
Thank you. And I think it's important to be connected with the subconscious in movies.
Yeah.
We do create images from the subconscious to kind of like let an audience maybe change their mind, I would say.
But I will say, so you're technically saying that we are manipulative bastards.
If you want, but no.
No, we are.
But I think we know better. That's what.
No. I agree. But there's something that is as I was watching Queer, there's a question that because I do it too, and I'm always questioning this, the idea of putting dreams into a movie being a awakened dream by itself. When you watch a movie on the screen, you see
You're already into a dream.
Yeah, and dream. And to put a dream in the dream is, I always question, I always fought against it, and I'm always doing it. And every time I'm doing it, I'm always like feeling like, why? But it's like, I think the importance of dreams in my life are too present. And as you had beautiful dream sequences or lyrical moments in the movie that were linked like with the subconscious, that were part of their dream state or the drug experiment. And I wonder what were your thoughts about putting dreams on celluloid?
It's too gluttony an opportunity not to do it. You know, like, because as you said, movies are dreams per se. The idea of going into the actual language of the dreams that we can connect with our own experience of dreams, which zero for me on framing and editing. The greatest sequences of dreams ever made are, for me, the Wild Strawberries dream sequences and Rosemary's Baby dream sequences, if I think of like this. And it's all about the editing and the framing. It's not about the
Bergman did some amazing
The Hour of the Wolf, incredible dreams. I like the idea of dreams because, in a way, they can enhance the idea that the experience is a terminal experience for an audience. Because eventually my goal is to really shake the audience and make them be like in places that they are not normally going to go. I don't know if I succeed, but that's what I want to do.
The ambition. The thing to go on with your question about the arena is there was this idea of to create a awakened dream, that you are like watching. It's not a dream in the movie, but I'm just trying to
an hallucination.
To go close to that state where you will be on another planet, where the only manifestation from nature will be the light, because that planet, the people there are disconnected from nature, from their ecosystem. It's an industrial planet, and I like in the book an idea that I love is how Dune is an exploration of the impact of the ecosystem on humans, how it informs about the technology, culture, religion, beliefs, etc., behaviors. But so on Arrakis, it's easy, the desert inform everything about the Fremen, but I was feeling that it was very sparse about Gedi Prime, the Harkonnen, and I came with this idea that maybe the light could be something that I had not seen this idea, I think, on movie before, where the sunlight will transform the colors. I mean, will kill the colors instead of revealing it.
So brilliant.
And bringing something about the psyche of these people. If your own son destroy colors and what the idea that politically, the idea of binary, that things are binaries, that it's very a fascist world. You know, there's something like of good and evil, and it's something that is
also, I like the idea that the plein soleil and the harshness of it. It's the darker. It's for exploring the darker side, the more really like violent side. There is a beautiful contradiction with the clarity of vision and the brightness of vision and the darkness of the moment.
And it's.
Was it negative film stock that you shoot?
We used
not negative X-ray.
Yeah, we shoot with IR, infrared cameras. In fact, it's a camera. It's a regular camera, but in the cameras, in the Alexa cameras, there's like a filter that block the IR. And Greg Fraser went into the software, and the camera were redesigned to just let the infrared coming in, nothing else. So and with a specific filter, and that fucking up the cameras, the inverted, and it became like just about capturing infrared, and it's
wow.
And it's an I wanted. I said to Greg, I would love to find an alien black and white. I would love the light to feel that it's coming from another sun, from another reality, and that it feels alien to us. The light will be the main alien element.
I felt a strange radioactive kind of heat watching the sequence.
Yeah. It's the idea of infrared came from my cinematographer Greg Fraser, and we experimented with different kind of black and white with film, digital, everything. But it's really infrared that brought that kind of eerie, where you see through the skin, you see the veins, the eyes are become very sharp and dark like insect. But it's very unpredictable. We had to redo all the costumes because we realized that, like for instance, my pants could be white and my shirt gray with infrared. It's not about.
So you
colors.
had to create the costumes in the right color that fit the
with the right fabrics,
Wow.
with the right textures to make sure that Fedrota will not look like a clown walking in the arena. That it will stay black. That the Bene Gesserit sister will go from black to white. That Lady Fenring will stay the same color. That I had to play
And
with.
in what part of the process you realized that?
In the early prep.
In prep.
Yes, in early prep, when we decided to play with those cameras, was as we were experimenting. We realized that quickly, and then we had to.
What is the part of the process that you feel that you are most like? I wish it could be faster. Because you
I
said
will
you're an
say,
editor.
but honestly, if the part that I wish was faster was writing for me,
Writing.
because I feel it's a slow process. And when you talk about the fact that Queer was written in a month and a half or something like that, I'm like floored. I'm envious. I'm jealous. It takes time to make the adaptation of both Dune. It's like a lot of error and mistakes. Also, I'm always struggling with the ambition of it and the limitation of budget, and because those movies, people say, oh, those are big, huge, but they are made from a fraction of the budget of a Star Wars movie. Those are a small, big film. Which is
a very Kubrickian thing to do.
It's
because Kubrick was always very considerate in his budgets. The scope was huge, but the movies were really.
I think that it's a way to limit yourself, to create, to
control more.
To control and to spark new ideas, because when you have all the money in the world, I think it's a danger where you fall into.
There are many dangers there. One is like you become lazy creatively.
I think so.
Two, you have a lot of control from other people, and I think that both of us, we don't like to lose our control, of course. And also, you stop thinking things that you can find in different ways. They're not.
There's something about the restrictions. I strongly believe in that.
Me too.
That from LP restrictions, where you have a box and you have to respect that box. Otherwise, if it's free for all, it's. I think I would be afraid of having no limitation. In fact, I will not like. I will not want to have no limitations. I think that it pisses me off, but it always secures me in some way to be more creative and find new ideas that will be definitely more cinematic and interesting than what would have done if I had all the money in the world. That's what I think. But of course, I know I've been there when I was a younger filmmaker, or I know some friends that are struggling when you have not enough money, and it's like then there's a danger there. I'm not saying that, but you understand what I mean.
I do understand totally, and I think. It's just being careful in not trying to do things that you cannot do if you can't.
Yeah.
But the limitations, even the technical limitation, is a very good thing. I love it because it makes you think more and find more solutions, I would say.
But a movie like Queer, you have it feels like there's a total adequation, like a total balance between the budget and what the movie. I mean, when I watch the movie, I don't feel you were limited at all. I feel you express everything. I mean, the movie feels perfect. Like everything is on.
We had to fight a lot.
Okay, interesting.
It was a long process.
Okay.
But I think for what the movie is in terms of the story and the emotions, I'm very happy of what we had in our hands to work with.
Yeah.
Particularly, I mean, the cast, which was fantastic. I love my actors. Do you love your actors?
I love my actors. When I did part 2, I came out from. We did part 1, and then did the press tour, award tour, and went into prep right away. There was no rest time between both movies. So when I started the part 2, I was already honestly tired. And the thing that kept me alive through the shoot were actors.
To bring them back, to be together.
No, but also the performances.
Oh,
I'm talking on a daily basis. See, waking up tired in the morning, but going on set and being fired up, excited, and finding my energy from the performances. They really, I owe them everything. On the part two, they kept me alive on a daily basis. It's crazy.
I wanted to ask you, Denis, what is that you are ambitious for the future, your filmmaking future?
I would sincerely love to be able to make a movie that will be stronger with the language of cinema. That be able to. I feel that I'm learning my craft, learning how to use the language that I barely use the power of that language, and I would love to push it. I would love to be able to bring something with less dialogue, that is more cinematic, that like the movies used to be made, like a Wage of Fears from Henri-Georges Clouzot, or movies like that are like pure cinematic gesture. You know, I would love to be able to do that. Yeah, I have not been yet.
You're very modest, and I think you are.
No. It's not.
I understand what you mean.
It's not modest. It's honest. It's two different. I know exactly where. You know.
I think I think you will add more pearls to the necklace of these forging prototypes, because I think you do prototypes, and I think it's important to do prototypes more than follow what has been done.
No, but it's a massive compliment that you're saying. But I think you do prototypes too in that regard.
Me too. I try.
Yeah.
I try, and I think we both are hard workers, people. We do work hard. That we are very committed. But I feel that I'm very lucky to be able to do what I do, and when I wake up and think, okay, I can do another movie, it's like, wow, what a privilege. It's a beautiful
crazy privilege. Huh?
Yeah.
It's like it's a privilege, and it's a responsibility too. When you take a camera, every time I finish a movie, I ask myself, should I go on? Is the flame still there? I take the liberty to choose cinema after each movie, and feeling deeply inside me if I still have that fire, and I think that I will try to make movies as long as I have that fire. The day I don't feel the fire, I stop.
That's something I said recently to someone. I am terrified of being in a place where I'm doing something and I don't want to do it. Our task for the future will be to really understand when we don't have the fire anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It was fantastic talking to you.
Wonderful. Merci.
Merci à toi.